All right, welcome back to the Nimrodjaune podcast. I'm your host, Jack of the Wally, and welcome back. Shout out to all my podcast listeners, Spotify listeners, YouTube watchers. Shout out to all of y'all. I don't really got time. Let's jump into it. Who's gonna be the one to save them? Realistically, if we're just realistically speaking, the people that people now look up to aren't the people that are in their day to day lives. It's over the internet. The people that are in their day to day life are probably encouraging the behavior that it is. So who's gonna be the one to help them? Who? You have to have a form of trust for people to even understand or even take heed to whatever you're saying, right? Let's establish that. So to have multiple people go on the internet and say, yeah, the children are failing at a literacy rate, the people that are most comfortable giving them the attention and the advice that they need aren't telling them to read. They're not. They're just not. They're not telling them to practice their skills. They're not telling them to develop into what they need to be. They're just not. Because the parent doesn't have the skills either. I don't even think it's a really. I think this is the byproduct of what happened to the past generation. What happened to the past generation is messing up the kids now, in my personal opinion. Because I made a video. Yes, we have to let the kids grow. We have to let them mature. We have to let them make their own decisions. We have to let them create the reality that they want using their own imagination and stuff like that. Right? Cool. But a parent still needs to play a part. But a parent still needs to play a part in that. The primary role of a parent is to nurture the child. Right? Right? Cool. I understand that. The parent can't be nurturing a child if what the parent has to nurture is not sufficient enough. Just brutally speaking, it's not. You can't give a kid an iPad and say go and expect him to be passing, expect him to understand stuff. No. Did I have an iPad growing up? Yes. But did I do good at school? Yeah. Was school pretty easy as a kid? 100%. But that's because I did homework. I had got a good amount of homework. So by the time we got back to class, I really wasn't struggling for real. Or I would understand the lesson fast. Like to me, math was like this. I could get math very easily. So it didn't take long for me to get it. And even if I didn't get it, by the time I got to finishing my homework, I'm done. I can comprehend it now. If you gave me a test, I can probably pass. Even now, some things I may not get as fast. But by the time I finish my homework, I understand. So I understand the problem of not giving children homework. Homework, we don't like it. We can say we don't like it, but it plays a very pivotal part in your form of learning. Homework needs to be given out. Do I believe excessive amount of homework is ridiculous? Yes. But to a certain extent, homework needs to be given out. It does. There should be no reason children are going home every single day with no homework. Nah. And I understand why teachers don't do it because they don't want to grade that shit. Teachers don't want to grade it. It's the adults. They don't want to give homework or they don't want to assign classwork towards the end of the quarter because they're already going over past also. Some teachers will let you turn in all the work for the whole quarter towards the end. So they're grading that and they have to grade this new stuff. And the window is like a week. So within 5 days, then for my high school class, I have 4 classes. So he has 8 classes or 6 classes, however many he has. I'm pretty sure he has six. I'm using my AP chemistry teacher for example. He has like 6 to 8 classes. So he has 6 to 8 classes worth of work he has to get done in a week. And he's grading throughout the year. I mean, throughout the quarter. But you always have those certain group of people who turn in everything at the end, and he accepts it. I can't imagine him giving work on the end, but he's gave homework throughout the time. So by the time we get to the end, there's nothing really much for him. It's probably just like a wrap up of everything, but we're just the final administering of the test. That's what it is. These little niggas not getting work. Why aren't these kids getting work? I didn't start reading on my own until I was about 16. I'll be very honest. I didn't. I only started reading because I watched a video, and with it, I realized guy was speaking, and what he was saying resonated with me so much. I'm like, I have to read. There's no ifs, ands, or buts if I like it or not. I have to read. And my first book was Atomic Habits, James Clear. I was really into business at this time, and I had to read. Prior to that, I was not reading books. I wasn't. I actually was a part of the train of people who did not read. I was part of them for whatever reason. No, I know for what reason. I know what reason. Because of the way it was introduced to me. If the way you're introducing reading to your kids is, oh, do this or you're gonna have to read, the kid is not gonna want to read ever. Is gonna associate reading with the negative reinforcement. That's what I had. It wasn't example. It wasn't like exactly that, but every time reading was, it was always felt as a consequence because it was always stripping me of what I wanted to do, and then it was replacing it with reading. I remember the time during the summer, my mom would make all of our siblings like stop playing games, stop watching YouTube, whatever, whatever, and read for an hour. I was reading Dog Man. I was being honest. I wasn't reading chapter books. I was reading comics. I was like, this is what I want to read. I'm gonna read this. She was like, no, you gotta read chapter books. I still read Dog Man. But when you introduce reading or homework to your children or to students as a, I guess, a way of reprimand or as something negative, they're not going to be receptive to it. So you trying to tell a kid to read when you punish them over and over saying, if you don't do this, I'm gonna force you to read. It's not gonna make the kid want to read at all because he's gonna associate with, oh, this is negative. This is what I need to do. Instead of you just saying, encouraging it more. The way I was brought into reading was, you have to read, you have to read. They were trying to force reading onto me. So I was less receptive to it. It wasn't until I got older that I even became somewhat interested in reading. But that had to be developed on my own. You gotta spark it first and then let them develop. If your spark is it associated with something negative, they're not gonna be receptive at all. They won't. Sorry, they just won't. And I think that's the problem. I think that's the main problem with everything that could be said about children now. It's the parents. The way they're introducing certain things to these children is making it seem as if it's negative when it's positive. Using it as, you could say, a reprimand or as repercussion for whatever, instead of encouraging it. If you encourage reading as a positive and didn't force it and didn't push it onto your children like as if it's something negative, or let them even foster the idea that it's negative, you have now probably divided the child from even learning anything from it, even gathering anything from it, or anything that it could possibly gain from it. Like music. A lot of children like music. We all like music. The people that's making the music probably grew up with the people I'm speaking on that never really pushed reading. I'm not saying all of them because I still find artists that I love that speak to me in the way that I personally enjoy. But I'm very obvious. There's very people who you can tell never took an interest in reading at all, and people gravitate towards them. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying you can point out very fast who liked reading and who didn't, who whose introduction to even literature in the slightest was positive and who's negative. You can't think somebody's gonna want to enjoy reading or want to even be involved in something like that. And the work, the writing, which is an important part. This is what I've been constantly seeing people complaining about writing of sentences and whatever. Growing up, I had to write my shit by hand. Right? I had to write my sentences by hand. Did I enjoy it? Sometimes when I had the ability to write creatively in a way that I felt comfortable and I was able to write in great length, I had no problem with it. My problem was with turning it in. The problem with turning it in on paper was if the teacher lost your paper and you confront them about it, there's nothing you can do. Like quite literally, there's nothing you can do unless they go find the paper. But if they lose it, it's game over. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing you can do. Because yes, you turned it in, but the teacher has no record of it. That's the part I disliked about writing with him. I disliked that with my whole heart because it happened to me. And I was so mad, but I understood there's nothing I can do. Because technically, we're both correct. I might have very well turned it in. She doesn't have proof of that, or he doesn't have proof of that. And they might have seen me turn it in, but they don't have proof. When it was able to type everything online, I was so happy because there I didn't have to worry about uh the teacher losing it. because it's uploaded. Google Classroom. When we had that, when we upgraded from paper to Google Classroom, I was so much happier because I did not have to worry about a teacher losing my work or me having to rewrite everything, the entire paragraph by hand. I just had to type it out. That it helped me a lot. But what I can say is writing it down manually, it really made you think. It really made me think about every word, how I wanted to phrase everything. Because you're writing it out. Because before you had to do outlines, right? I didn't really do outlines, but I had an outline in my head of how I wanted everything to go, how I wanted the story to progress if I had to write a story. I knew exactly how I wanted it to go. So every word you're writing, every sentence is following the guideline. When you're typing, I'm less thinking much because it's on a screen. Now I'm actually putting pen to paper. I'm putting my fingers to a keyboard. When that's your first introduction to writing, yeah, you're probably not going to be the best at it at that age or even growing up unless you actually take an interest in it. Reading and writing to me was easy. I never really had to try or expert more energy into reading and writing. I It was gifted, but I just didn't like it because of the way I was introduced to it and the way I held the grudge for having to write because having that the hand pain of writing papers on papers was annoying and I did not enjoy it. Only part I enjoyed was the outcome when I was done and I was able to reflect on my work and I was proud of it. But turning in 5 paragraph essays in fourth grade manually was not fun. It wasn't, but it helped me. My first introduction to writing is manual writing, writing it down on paper, writing my name, the date, what class it is, and having to manually write each paragraph, make sure it's indented, and uppercase letters, yada yada, make sure it's correct spelling and all of that. That was important to me. That's important to children. You can't strip them from that and then make everything digitally. I know it's going to be hard. I know you're not going to be able to read the handwriting. I know it's gonna look bad. Some people not gonna be pressing down enough on their pencil. I understand that, but it's important for their development. Make, I guess, until I want to see until 6th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, everything should be done on paper. Just write it out. They could, if they have to, take a picture and upload it on Canvas, but make sure it's handwritten. Make sure it's handwritten. Make sure, because let's say they use AI for it, whatever, right? Because that's a very well possibility, and they just write it out. Them writing it out, at least they understand it. If they just copy and paste it, they don't even read it. When you have to write something in, you have to, okay, look back up, okay, go back, read it. You have to read what you're writing. When it's all online, copy, paste, upload. There's no real work, there's no real fundamental skills being done except copying and pasting. That's it. Make these little boys and girls write. And I'm just speaking for me because I seen it in my own 2 eyes. Just seeing how it is now. The last time I really had to write was my junior year, and I was killing it. Also because I have a passion, I very enjoy writing, so that's maybe different. But the people around me and the people within my area, it was super easy to write. We had to write, let's say we had to write a paragraph. Paragraph was nothing. Get a paragraph done in 5, 7 minutes, 5 sentences. However, the length of the sentences doesn't really matter. We got those 5 sentences and got enough information within those sentences within 5 to 7 minutes, right? That was nothing to us. But that's probably because of how long we've matured, how much time we spent writing. That time you spend writing is very important because it now trains your brain on how to actually form sentences, how to structure them in the way that you want. This is just my personal point of view from somebody who's seeing it how it is now. Yeah, I'll see y'all next week. Peace.